Right, well, that was the full entire game. It's good to see that I didn't die at the end. What have I thought? What have I felt about the game? Well, it's like I said, the first game I've played since Elden Ring. That's the last game I played when it came out. And then before that, probably multiple years passed before I played a single player game. I used to play mainly multiplayer games. But when I was younger, I played Final Fantasies a lot. 10 was my favorite. I used to play a lot of single player games, and I'm getting back into it now. And I feel like this was a good start. It's not quite Final Fantasy in terms of the storytelling aspect of it, but the gameplay was definitely fun. I see a lot of people criticize this game for how it strayed or whatever the case may be, but I enjoyed the time I spent with it. I mean, I did all of the side quests, even when it kind of was driving me crazy, did all of the hunts, and did the entire two DLCs. The game itself, the gameplay itself, 7.5. I won't say it pushes 8 yet, but like 7.5 out of 10. Super fun. Like, you have a lot of freedom and a lot of options and combos you could do with the game, and it gave you a lot of expression in terms of how you wanted to use abilities. And I was really happy I found a build that I like playing by the end of it, because my goal was just stagger into damage dump, and I feel like my build encapsulated that perfectly with how it went through all of the bosses and the S rank hunts that we did. In terms of writing and story, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely do think it was pretty weak. I think like the writing, the story itself might be like a 4, might maybe 5, like pretty mid in my opinion. Like the first half of the story with all of the politics, that didn't really matter. It was just politics is happening so people can be distracted for us to destroy crystals, and then it just kind of did that 3 or 4 times, well, 4 or 5 times until we reached the Odin crystal. We fought Odin, destroyed the crystal, and then fought the last boss. In terms of the dialogue and writing, that was like a treat. it it was just too edgy and cringe, to be honest. Well, not cringe, but like just too edgy and trying too hard to seem like it's it's like mature or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't mind characters saying fuck or shit or whatever, like cock, whatever the case may be during the game, but I feel like they would just like trigger finger with profanity, like different profanities or different like edginess factors. In terms of the actual dialogue, sometimes I just felt like they were yapping way too much. You could have definitely gotten a lot more concise with your writing, which would have left a bigger impact than just having it draw out. Like I was saying at the end, I thought Ultima was talking way too much. But that was like the downsides of the game. All that being said, the game was still hella fun. Like, I still had a ton of enjoyment playing the actual game, the gameplay of it. Doing some of the boss fights were incredibly well put together. That Titan boss fight, Ultima was pretty cool. I'm not gonna say it wasn't. Bahamut was pretty cool. And overall, I had a lot of fun with the gameplay loop that I was in as I was learning new icon abilities, getting new combos, figuring out new mechanics of the game, and going through all of the motions there. So overall, I'd say the game is probably like a 5. I mean, I know I said all that. It's like a 5. The gameplay kind of pulls it up from the poor writing, and the dialogue especially, because none of the characters, like, you know what game has, and I'm gonna say it again, pretty good dialogue that I really enjoyed, was Final Fantasy X. I played that game a ton, and I watched someone play it over recently, so I got the dialogue fresh in my mind. But there were times where you could tell they just got into the character and just said what the character would have felt at that time. Like when Tidus was going to save Yuna the first time from the temple, and Iwaka was like, no, only Guardians could do that, and Tidus was just like I get, and just run inside. Like, little lines like that that give the characters a lot more personality to themselves rather than sounding generic-ish, which, to be fair, they don't all sound super generic, but I think it's just a part of the aspect that they were writing out too much dialogue. But we already spoken about that. In terms of the gameplay itself, the combat, I did mention I enjoyed. There were a lot of cool, unique missions. I wish they would actually remove the MMO aspects of the game, like fetch quests. Why am I going to this person to talk to this person to then come back to talk to you to then talk to this person to carry this stuff? Like what is this back and forth necessary for? This isn't an MMO. It's a single player game. I don't feel like we need that level of LARP. Like there were a few times during the gameplay, I said, yeah, I don't feel like we needed this level of LARP in terms of like walking this place or like walking to this thing or trying to do this thing or filling this bucket of water or something like that. I feel like we could have been a lot more direct with the story as well in terms of some of the side, well, not side quests, but like even the main quests. Because we do like main quest shit, big story beats, and then just have like a lot of side quests, like main quests that are essentially just side quests of running around, talk to this person, to talk to this person, to talk to this person, then back and forth, back and forth. But overall, like I said, the game is like it's mid, like a 5, but I did enjoy it. I would probably recommend someone to play this game if they want to get back into get back into a modern Final Fantasy. But I can't say it's like by my favorite by any means. And I played the entire game. I have like 50 hours into it. I can't say I didn't enjoy the game. I thought it was bad. If I did, I would have stopped playing it. So I think that's good enough for me to tell someone, if you like Final Fantasy, if you like action combat, and you don't want like a crazy high tier level story, it's definitely a good game to jump into, see how you feel, give it a shot, and worst case scenario you don't like it, you just stop, you just drop the game, right? But overall, like at the end there when it looked like Sid was gonna die, would thought that would have been like too much. Like we had Joshua and Dion die, Sid didn't, he said already, I keep saying Sid, Clive already beat Ultima, he's just gonna turn to stone at the end. I felt like that's like you're just trying to give me too hard, like you're trying too hard to give me reasons to care. But it's good to see at the end where he said, and that's how our journey ends. I would have to assume it sounds like the story was being narrated from the point of a story or a book being written, and someone would have to be there to account the details of what happened on the origin point and what happened in the fight with Ultima. Dion and Joshua died, so it could only have been Clive. I keep saying Sid. It could have only have been Clive. So I would have to believe Clive survived, went back to the hideaway, reunited with Jill and all those guys. That's my headcanon there. I'm pretty sure they left it open like that for intentionally for the players to actually decide what it's looking like. But I wonder, is there any post cutscene? Like I'm just gonna scroll past this now. That's like more or less my overall thoughts on the game. I don't think, actually let me stop here for a second, slow down. The DLC as well, I think the DLC was great. The first one was alright, the Echoes of Darkness, that was alright. It was just basically a dungeon. Nothing too crazy about that there. But the second one, I think the writing was much better in the second one than the base game itself, as well as the overall art direction and gameplay loop of the second one. It was more or less the same in terms of gameplay loop, but I like the area a lot more than where we spent most of the base game, just because of how well lit it was, how the actual environment looked. The boss fight was hella cool. We had a lot of boss fights and a lot of mini bosses there as well, so the gameplay for it was hella cool and was pretty concise. Like we did it in 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours max, so it wasn't stupid long that we had to spend time on. So the DLC definitely, I would say, if I had to include that to the rating of the base game, bump it up a bit, maybe like a 6. But the base game itself still remains at a 5. If I was to sum it up, kind of poor writing, mess story, pretty cool gameplay. So with that, let me see if there is